that was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
Courtney Act is one of the most successful queens to come out of RuPaul's Drag Race, managing to create a brand that has provided many amazing opportunities throughout the years. I mean, as recently as this year, Courtney appeared on Eurovision 2022 announcing the jury vote from Australia, which, by the way, thank you for those 12 points.
Our 12 points go to Spain.
In this video, I'm going to be discussing Courtney Act's career and some key moments throughout the years that stuck out. Let's begin. Now, we've all heard the story of the double crowning that occurred in season 6. Yet on a Race Chaser episode from October 2021 reviewing season 6 episode 14, Courtney gives their perspective of the season 6 finale. In it, Courtney states that pretty much everyone knew that the crown was going to be going to either Adore Delano or Bianca Del Rio. Unfortunately, Courtney just didn't have the fan base to compete with any of the other two, despite having the second best track record of the season. In fact, a lot of the fan base didn't seem to like Courtney, which was largely attributed to Courtney's edit centering around shady comments or self-gloating remarks. Regardless, we'd get to see different sides of Courtney when they'd eventually compete on other reality shows in the future. The night of the season 6 finale, Courtney felt super nervous as they didn't want to film an alternate crowning, citing how it felt wrong to be giving a fake reaction to something that they knew they had no shot at winning. Yet it was part of the requirements from the contestants, so Courtney decided to go through with it. However, that's when things suddenly took a turn, with the night ending up getting even worse for Courtney. Because after they were done filming Courtney's alternate ending, it was announced that they would be filming a 4th additional ending. And so RuPaul suddenly announced that the winners were Adore Delano and Bianca Del Rio, which would have been the first tie in Drag Race history. Courtney says that in this moment they felt really embarrassed, but that part of them thought that production would be doing another tie, only this time including Courtney with one of the other queens. But it never happened. After Adore and Bianca were filmed as a tie, production wrapped the filming and the season was officially over. Courtney says in this moment they felt like they were gonna break down and cry from the sheer embarrassment that they were put through. Courtney would end the night crying in a cab to the hotel while talking on the phone with their best friend, Vanity Fair. Willem argues that the least production could have done was film another alternate ending that included Courtney, to at least give some sort of possibility that Courtney might win. Yet that wasn't the case. To this day, Courtney recounts their time at the season 6 finale as something very traumatic that they had to go through, which is pretty crazy. I, like everybody else, very much was aware of the double crowning, but had no idea that Courtney had been affected this much by it. Regardless, Courtney actively speaks about being very grateful to be cast on season 6 and to have made it as far as they did. As we know, the reason why Drag Race began to film all these alternate crownings in a live finale was due to Perez Hilton, who in 2011 leaked online that Raja was the winner of season 3 before the season had even began airing. Subsequently, this event would be enough for World of Wonder to avoid any future leaked winner. By filming alternate crownings, it gave World of Wonder the power to keep the real winner hidden until the airing of the episode. Now, there isn't a lot of footage of alternate crownings. Some of the only footage available of alternate endings is Kim Chi winning season 8.
Is there anything you'd like to say?
Wednesday
Naomi Smalls winning season 8. Brooklyn Heights winning season 11. And Miss Cracker and Jujubee winning All Stars 5.
The winner of RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars, the next queen to be inducted into the Drag Race Hall of Fame is Miss Cracker.
Okay, it's time for dinner!
I can't breathe. I have a confession to make. I fear I've made a terrible mistake. Miss Cracker. Sashay away.
Because Angina, you didn't believe in yourself.
Jujubee, congratulations, you are the top all-star.
I've been waiting a really long time to win something. Thank you.
So for the most part, there isn't a lot of footage of alternate crownings, and even the ones that exist are not very good quality. We need more people like Stacey Lane Matthews taking videos of these live finales. I personally find it impressive the World of Wonder is able to do such a good job at keeping an entire live audience from leaking footage of the alternate crownings, but can manage to keep the spoilers of the season under wraps. Perhaps it's just a side effect that as the show began to get more popular, spoilers began to get more specific and accurate. Moving on, it is a known fact that in the subculture of the show, the Courtney Act is one of the queens that has had a bad relationship with World of Wonder. The conflict began in 2015. RuPaul ended up blocking Courtney on Twitter after Courtney had been calling out the show for the lack of respect that was being shown towards the trans community. In a way, Courtney was one of the first queens to ever speak out against the show, next to of course Willem. There isn't much else that goes into the drama between RuPaul and Courtney, as a couple years later RuPaul would end up unblocking Courtney on Twitter with not much new information coming out of it. Except of course it becoming very clear that World of Wonder would most likely not be working with Courtney anytime soon. For the first year after the airing of season 6, Courtney's career would for the most part fly under the radar. During this time, they would occasionally be part of the Battle of the Seasons tour, which was basically a prototype for Work the World. During 2015, Courtney was part of the drag girl group called the AAA Girls, which was comprised of Courtney Act, Willem, and Alaska. The group stemmed from a previous collaboration that they had all done with American Apparel, a company that would go bankrupt a year later, which is an interesting case in itself. The company allegedly went bankrupt for a wide range of reasons, from the CEO receiving multiple sexual assault allegations to criticisms of the way they were marketing some of their products. It ultimately went bankrupt about 1 year after Alaska, Willem, and Courtney did the advertisement. It's important to note that at the time, it was a pretty big deal to see Ru Girls in advertisements from established companies, as it wasn't as common as it is now. Anyway, the AAA Girls would release what I consider to be one of the best pop albums to come out of any Ru Girl. I mean, not only is the production of the songs really well done, but the references they make throughout the album and music videos that accompany some of their hit songs shows a lot of effort and quality. In specific, I enjoyed their tribute to Stacey Lane Matthews with the song Heather, which also featured Stacey in the video.
Season 3, come back, Henny, please, 'cause who the fuck is Heather?
The AAA Girls would end up sort of fizzling out and going their separate ways by late 2016, but they'd still get back together every now and then to do some type of collaboration. It also became a lot more challenging for new music to come out from the AAA Girls when Courtney turned into a reality TV star. While on Race Chaser, Courtney discussed her displeasure with RuPaul's new song, Blame It on the Edit, which felt very disrespectful towards many Drag Race girls who had dealt with the toxic fanbase after the way they were portrayed on the show. Some of the lyrics of the song talks about how contestants only have themselves to blame when it comes to what gets edited into the show, because at the end of the day, it is all things that were said at one point or another by the queen competing. Courtney feels that RuPaul was sort of gaslighting the queens who've competed on the show by insinuating that the edit has absolutely no effect on the way the queens come across and thus whether or not the fans will like them. Courtney then specifically calls out Michelle Visage, citing that after Michelle competed on Big Brother, she'd go on to state that she didn't like the way she was edited on the final cut of each episode, which is pretty ironic. Similarly, Pearl would go on Hate Queen in 2018 and inadvertently reveal that perhaps the way RuPaul is edited on the show is different from the way she treats queens behind the scenes, citing the infamous story that while recording some promo for the season, Pearl told RuPaul how much Ru inspired her, only for Ru to turn and say, "Nothing you say matters unless that camera's rolling." Courtney's opinion on the Pearl situation is that they prefer to separate the art from the artist when it comes to RuPaul. That while there's aspects about Ru they don't like, that it's important to acknowledge the opportunities that come from competing on Drag Race. On January 2015, Michelle Visage would enter the Celebrity Big Brother UK house and would make it to the finals, placing 5th. A couple years later, in January 2018, Courtney Act entered the Celebrity Big Brother house. Only Courtney did what Michelle could never, which was win. If we compare the runs of both Courtney Act and Michelle Visage on their respective seasons of Big Brother, we can see that they had sort of parallel circumstances with some different storylines. Michelle and Courtney were both strong representatives from the LGBT community who were competing alongside a very conservative individual with political views that most LGBT people would would strongly disagree with. Yet, the difference in these two scenarios was that Courtney actively spoke against the conservative views that were being shared by arch nemesis Anne Widdecombe, who was a former member of the European Parliament, while Michelle would go on to actually form a friendship with Katie Hopkins, whose main claim to fame after competing on another reality show was that Katie constantly got herself in headlines for extremely conservative comments and overall controversial type of worldview. So naturally, when Michelle competed on Celebrity Big Brother UK, many fans would go on to criticize Michelle for developing what many considered to be a close friendship with Katie Hopkins, who was known in the UK to be a really controversial conservative political activist. Thus, it didn't make sense to fans that out of all the people in the house, Michelle would choose to be in an alliance with Katie Hopkins. That being said, Michelle was also having to share a house with Perez Hilton, who was constantly calling out Michelle for her friendship with Katie Hopkins, stating that if Michelle represents the LGBT community, she shouldn't be forming an alliance with someone like Katie Hopkins who couldn't care less about marginalized communities.
I think the public might be viewing you a way I don't think you are because of your association. So be mindful of that.
I think the public knows exactly who I am, but they also know exactly who you are.
Ultimately, Michelle felt that through conversation, you could really get to know a person and perhaps even change their mind. As I mentioned before, Michelle Visage would go on to place 5th, while Katie Hopkins was the runner-up of the season. The winner of Michelle's Big Brother season was actually Katie Price, who would later be done in Snatch Game for Drag Race UK Season 2 by Bimini Bon Boulash. Subsequently, just weeks after the airing of Celebrity Big Brother, Michelle would go on to state in many interviews that she is no longer friends with Katie Hopkins due to her political views. Because at the time, Katie had once again gotten into headlines for doing what she does best, which is say controversial and offensive things. In contrast, while Courtney was on Celebrity Big Brother, every episode seemed to be used to its potential in terms of what topics could be explored to help educate the audience at home about certain social issues. For instance, Courtney would go on to explain the concept of gender fluidity to other house guests. There was also an interesting storyline where a trans contestant named India told Courtney that they wish transgendered people were considered a separate entity from the lesbian, gays, and bisexuals, citing that it confuses people that aren't a part of the LGBT community. To which Courtney argued that without the battles that were fought by gay, lesbians, and bisexual individuals, there would be no platform today for trans people to be able to showcase themselves, which was an interesting perspective on a very complicated issue. It is through Courtney's journey on Big Brother that I think so many people were mesmerized by the way Courtney seemed to so effortlessly educate the children on the gay agenda. You could also tell that many of the house guests were genuinely intrigued about learning more regarding LGBT issues, specifically because of the way Courtney was able to navigate through those conversations.
So drag is more performance-based, hers is about her gender identity.
Did she dress as a woman when she was a man though?
She was never a man, but she had a
mentally, the physical body, yeah.
I mean, the cutest part of Courtney's storyline on Big Brother was probably their friendship with Andrew, who despite just being an average straight person, actually didn't mind having a sort of on-show bromance with Courtney by taking a bath together and even giving each other a little kiss. However, the most important and most prevalent storyline for Courtney was their rivalry with Anne Widdecombe. The conflict stemmed from both individuals having seemingly opposite political views, with Anne being a die-hard conservative that had voted on a lot of anti-LGBT legislations, as well as ignoring basic human rights principles and denying climate change. The season would end up coming down to the two of them, as they were the last ones left in the house, until it was announced that Courtney Act had won Celebrity Big Brother.
Courtney! Courtney, you are our winner!
Courtney winning Celebrity Big Brother UK is arguably one of the most important things to happen in their career. After all, the UK is a place where many reality TV stars flourish, as it's more ingrained into British pop culture as opposed to the American counterparts. This allowed Courtney to become a sort of mini celebrity in the UK, which opened the doors to new opportunities. For example, in less than a year after Courtney won Big Brother, it was announced that they'd be hosting a new reality show titled The Bi Life, which was a show about people trying to find love. And Courtney would end the year 2018 by hosting her own Christmas special, which aired on national television in the UK. As guests, Courtney invited Bianca, Adore, and Darienne. The four of them seem to have been able to maintain their friendship since season 6 finished airing back in 2014. They're also always actively supporting each other on social media. But now that I just mentioned her, can we just talk about Darienne Lake for a second? If you haven't been following Darienne, she recently went through a weight loss journey, which seems to have brought a new spark to her drag. Darienne was a very funny character to have on season 6, which is saying a lot given that there were queens like Bianca and Adore in the room as well. Unfortunately, Darienne was pretty much brushed under the rug after season 6 aired, with most of the fan base just actively forgetting about her. I never even see Darienne on wishlist for All Stars. Anyway, stan Darienne Lake. Flash forward to January 2019 and Courtney Act was announced as a contestant on Dancing with the Stars Australia. Courtney's time on Dancing with the Stars was one that they clearly invested a lot of effort and thought into. In specific, Courtney was able to represent the concept of gender fluidity through the art form of dance, such as this masterpiece of a performance where we see the internal struggle that can stem from those that don't fit society's gender mold. It was pretty impressive to see that in a show that was largely centered around performative talent as opposed to reality TV drama, that there was still a way for Courtney to represent the LGBT community and opening up a conversation with mainstream audiences about the fluidity of gender. Courtney would end up, of course, making it to the finals and was a runner-up for the season, with many fans stating that Courtney should have won but lost due to the other contestant having a sad backstory. Throughout the years, Courtney has managed to mostly stay out of drama within the fan base of the show, which is pretty surprising considering these days fans will find any reason to get mad at a queen. The only minor drama they got into was when Courtney dressed up as Britney Spears to poke fun of the style of Instagram post that Britney had been making, which many people found to be very odd. Fans got super upset at Courtney, citing that Britney's conservatorship is nothing to laugh about. The drama concluded with Courtney deleting the Instagram post. I mean, I agree that the post was just a bad joke and it wasn't funny at all, but at the same time, the way that fans will just sometimes completely flip on a queen just because they made one silly mistake is very off-putting. So as I was making this video, I found this Twitter interaction between Darienne Lake and Courtney Act during the first wave of the pandemic. In it, Darienne tweets about the canals in Venice, Italy that made the headlines after the lack of human activity made the waters clear, with even wildlife returning to swim in it. Darienne wonders what the Hudson River in New York would reveal if the waters began to clear, to which Courtney responds, maybe that drowning guy that Ru sent prayers to. This refers to one of the most bizarre pieces of interview that RuPaul has ever been a part of. In an article from 2015, RuPaul ends up giving an anecdote about his early life in New York City, where he ends up saying, quote, I remember once I had this place that overlooked the Hudson River, and I saw this guy on a sailboat and it had capsized, and I went to the phone thinking, I've got to call someone. But then I thought, what's the best thing I can do? You know what? I'm gonna pray for this person. I'm gonna send them loving energy. And then the article just says, quote, he did not say whether the man survived. Now, whether or not RuPaul was joking, the thought of RuPaul hoping for a drowning man to overcome his inner saboteur to help him from drowning is bizarre yet funny. Another entertaining interview with RuPaul is one that she did with Judge Judy, where RuPaul spoke about how he sometimes is able to learn about Yiddish words just by watching Judge Judy's show. In specific, he keeps pronouncing one specific Yiddish word that he loves to use. Judge Judy then throws shade by saying, quote, incorporating Judaism into your personality is maybe something you don't need. Anyway, can Judge Judy please be a guest judge on Drag Race before it's too late? Now, some tea from Drag Race Down Under's casting is that apparently they didn't do a casting call like normal seasons typically do. This means that usually the network will release an advertisement asking the queens to send in their audition tapes from the show, and from there they'll choose about 20 to 30 queens and dwindle it down to an official cast. Courtney says that for Down Under, producers did their own research to decide which queens would make it onto the first season of Drag Race Down Under, but the way they went about it was super weird. One of the casting producers would DM people through their Instagram account, only it wasn't an official Instagram account, it was some random Instagram comprised of pictures of hairless Sphinx cats. So a bunch of queens from Australia and New Zealand were getting messages from some random account asking for their email to contact them about an important opportunity. Which is pretty funny. I can't imagine how many queens must have blocked her thinking she was some troll. If you didn't know, Courtney Act is best friends with fellow drag queen and business partner Vanity Fair. Courtney was actually inspired by Vanity to do drag, and they've been friends since before Courtney even made it on Australian Idol back in the early 2000s. Naturally, Vanity was strongly rumored to have had a big chance at making it to the first season of RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under. However, Vanity was disappointed to learn that she wasn't cast on the first season, especially considering she was amongst the most well-known queens from Australia. Subsequently, it seems that given the speculator cast for Down Under Season 2, she still hasn't been cast on the show. Perhaps Vanity's relation to Courtney was the reason why she wasn't cast on the show, or maybe producers genuinely didn't see a storyline potential for Vanity Fair. Now, as of recently, Courtney was finally cast on an all-star season, only not for Drag Race. Courtney competed once again on Dancing with the Stars Australia All-Stars edition, where they'd end up making it to the finals again. Since then, Courtney has essentially achieved a sort of legendary status as a reality TV contestant. I mean, there's not a lot of drag queens that have managed to not only be on multiple big-name reality shows, but also making it super far and being a vital part of the season's storyline. I mean, Courtney was a finalist on Australia's Got Talent, a runner-up for RuPaul's Drag Race, the winner of Celebrity Big Brother, the runner-up for Dancing with the Stars Australia, and again made it to the finals when they returned for the all-star season of Dancing with the Stars Australia. And to top all that off, Courtney has hosted their own reality TV series and is considered a pretty well-known figure within the pop culture of the UK, where they've been consistently invited to many news shows and political discussions. It is for sure a shame that Drag Race wasn't able to mend their relationship with Courtney. I'm sure that both Courtney and Ru have probably moved past their beef by now, but at this point, it feels like Courtney has gained too much outside of the show to justify needing to risk coming back for a bad edit by competing on RuPaul's Drag Race. But what do you guys think? If the possibility existed, do you think it'd be a good choice for Courtney to compete again on Drag Race? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Sorry it's taken me so long to come out with new content, but life gets in the way sometimes. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you'd like to interact with me on Twitter, my handle is greengay22. I'll see you guys next time.